Hi, welcome to Rice University. I'm going to be your tour guide for today. My name is Camila. I'm a sophomore at Brown Residential College. I study ecology and evolutionary biology, and I'm originally from Keller, Texas. Where we are right now is the academic quad, and behind you is kind of the Sallyport and Lovett Hall. Lovett Hall is the oldest building on campus, built in 1911, 1 year before classes started in 1912. In Lovett Hall is the most iconic feature of Rice's campus, which is the Sallyport. It's this huge archway that is used in two super important ceremonies while you're here as a Rice student. The first one being your matriculation, which happens on your very first day of orientation week. You walk from the outside of the academic quad through Sallyport and into the academic quad itself. There'll be advisors cheering for you, there's even fireworks. It's such a cool ceremony to be a part of. And that symbols your entering of academia and you're entering into the Rice community. So it's not just your acceptance letter that makes you a member of Rice, but it's also this kind of tradition and formal celebration of entering the academic quad. And 4 or 5 years later, when you graduate, you actually sit out here in the academic quad and exit back out through Sallyport into Founders Court, signifying your exiting of academia. However, you never really leave the Rice community. You're constantly welcomed back years later while you are an alumni. Also, there's a little superstition around the Sallyport. When you come and visit, you may realize that not a lot of students will actually use Sallyport to get to one side to the other of the academic quad. That's because we've been told there's a little superstition that if you walk back out the wrong way, you won't graduate on time. So a lot of students try to be really careful about that, including myself. So come on, follow me. I'm going to take you to where I live at Brown Residential College. Hi, welcome to Brown Residential College. This is where I currently live as a Rice student on campus. There are 11 different residential colleges on campus. Brown is the 6th residential college in founding order. We live on the far north side of campus. Sorry if that sped up walk took a little bit of time. There are a couple really important buildings in Brown College that can also translate to all of the other residential colleges as well. Behind me is the tower, and then to my right, which will be to your left, this kind of blue building is something we call the quads. Those are where students live. In the tower, we have a double style of living, so there's 2 students to each room. In the quads, it's called a suite style. So there's 4 single rooms with 1 shared bathroom. So those are technically or typically for juniors and seniors. However, each residential college has its own styles of living and its own systems for where it puts students. So wherever you end up has its own different function and system. However, wherever you live, it will be such a cool experience and you'll have such a great time doing it. I like to think of the residential colleges as 11 siblings all on the same campus. So they all get along with one another, sometimes they pull pranks on one another, but at the end of the day, they all really love each other and rally behind the whole spirit of being at Rice. So follow me over, I'm going to take you inside the tower to our Vader Lobby, elevator lobby. So hi, this is in the tower now. We're in something we call our Vader Lobby or our elevator lobby. This is for the elevators to go up to the 8 floors of the tower are located. However, we've kind of transformed this space also into a super cool communal living space. Behind me, this is where we typically hold our governmental meetings. Each residential college has its own student-led government, and this is where we hold bi-weekly meetings to talk about what's happening at the college and around Rice. This is also where students will hang out and watch movies. We have a sort of gaming system here also that students will use to hang out together and have fun. Also behind, in this kind of corner, we have pool tables. That's where students love to hang out and play games, even late into the night. Vader Lobby is a huge part of Brown's culture. Brown has something pretty unique called floor culture. We have 8 floors, 7 of which have students living on them, floors 2 through 8. And each floor has its own distinct personality or culture. So when you get put on a floor at Brown, you actually don't only get put on because you need to fill a space, but because you fit well with the mix of people that currently live there. And what's really cool is you get to help define what your floor looks like. Whether it be a floor that's really social with one another or a floor that's a little more quiet, or we even have floors that are family floors. that will go out and eat dinners with one another pretty frequently. It's a super cool culture that we have here at Brown. So now we're gonna head over to the Commons to see where students eat and hang out with one another. So welcome, this is Brown Residential College Commons. This is where students will eat their meals. This is also where students will hang out with one another. A lot of colleges have something we call commons culture as opposed to floor culture, and that's where students will hang out in the commons, they'll study with one another, and they'll have their meals together. Here at Brown, we have a pretty nice commons. Other students' commons will have different places to play games. Each college determines what happens in their commons, and that's because of the budget they get by the university every year. Each college government has a certain amount of money that they can use to dedicate to certain renovations or to certain committees that they have at the residential college to determine what happens at that college that year. A lot of students will find that their college is the best match for them because they help build the college that they live in. So I love Brown the most, and other students will say that they love Hanson the most or Will Rice the most, but that's because they help build the culture that houses them. In the Commons, you get your meals from something called serveries. There are several serveries around campus. Brown is served directly by North Servery, which serves Martell and Jones as well. However, if you don't like what the servery near you is serving, every servery has a different menu for every meal of the day. So you can hop on to a different servery and try what they have. Some serveries are more popular than others on certain nights. On Wednesday nights, West Servery has jumbo cinnamon rolls, and that gets a line out the door even before dinner time starts. They're super delicious and definitely worth how sugary they are. So commons differ in that sort of culture. Another really important part of the commons is that you spend most of your orientation week in the commons itself. Orientation week is something that's super unique to Rice's culture. It's an entire week instead of just several days. And it's not only the time where you get to discover what Rice is about, meet the people from your college, you also determine your class schedule and figure out what groups you'd like to join while you're at Rice, all at the same time. It's a super jam-packed week, but it's a ton of fun. Some people will even say it was their favorite part of their first year. Not because the rest of it sucked, because O Week is just that fun. During O Week, you have something called O Week groups. Some people even call them O Week families. It's a group of about 4 upperclassmen paired with about 7 to 8 new students. And those people all work together as a team to help guide the new students to understanding what Rice is about. Not just Rice as a whole, but also the unique culture of the residential college. Each residential college has its own history, tradition, and customs that allow each college to be a unique experience. So that's what OWEEK is kind of building up towards, is learning about that unique heritage that makes each residential college super unique to one another. So this is Duncan Hall. This is one of our academic buildings here at Rice. It's the home of our statistics, computer science, and computational and applied mathematics departments. This is probably one of the coolest looking buildings on campus. It's definitely a super fun place to come hang out and study and also take classes in. This building has a super awesome ceiling. It's actually a mural called The Birth of Consciousness. It was originally drawn on actually a piece of computer paper and was projected onto the ceiling and drawn by hand by then. You can even see in some of the photos of this painting that there's actually a speck of dust that was accidentally transferred onto the ceiling itself because of the projector magnification. Besides that, in this super cool building, in buildings like this, students will be taking classes, tests, and come listen to talks from other speakers and study with one another. Academics at Rice is pretty unique. We have something called a distribution system. The 3 distributions are humanities, social science, and natural science / engineering. The trick to do your distribution is to take 3 classes in each distribution outside of your major requirements. So because I'm a bio major, I've taken a philosophy class to fulfill my humanities distribution. I've taken an anthropology class to fulfill my social sciences distribution. And I'm still working on that as I go. It's a super cool part of the Rice system because it allows you to take classes outside of your discipline and learn more from other students that have different mindsets than you and different perspectives on the world. It's a super cool aspect of Rice and definitely something that attracted me to come learn here. Another thing that's really cool about Rice is the class sizes. You've probably heard of the student-to-teacher ratio, but your class sizes will vary pretty heavily. One of the biggest classes I've ever taken was general chemistry, and that was about 120 students. Even though that class was really large, we had something called discussion sections, which allowed us to work in smaller groups of about 20 to 30 people and work one-on-one with our professor, a grad student TA, or just an undergrad TA. and that allowed me to feel really comfortable in a large classroom. And in general chemistry specifically, we worked in table groups together during lecture, so even though the class was 120, I was working directly with 6 people, so the class felt really tiny, and I was able to grasp the material really well. The smallest class I've ever had was 5 people, and we took it in a conference room. So once you stop taking intro classes, your class sizes will drop drastically, and you'll be able to work one-on-one with the professor really frequently. All professors at Rice are super open and available, so even in a large class, I feel like I can talk to my professor one-on-one. A lot of professors take the time to learn each student's name individually, even in a class of 100 or so. It's a super awesome and personal experience. So we're gonna head out and go out and visit some more of campus and see what the rec center looks like. Hi, this is now the Gibbs Wellness and Recreation Center. This is our on-campus gym and rec center, and also our well-being center, which is open for students at all times. At the rec, there's fully functioning gym equipment. There's even indoor and outdoor basketball courts. There's even like a hockey rink for some reason, and several dance rooms. So if there's anything athletic that you and your friends want to do, the rec has you covered. There's also the Wellbeing Center. That's our Wellbeing and Counseling Center. So we have on-campus and off-campuses mental health services available for students, and it's completely confidential. So that anytime you want to talk about mental health, even if it's something like how to organize better, how to de-stress before a test, to higher mental health issues, you can get advice from the Wellbeing Center. This is the Rice Memorial Center. You can kind of think of it as a student union. A lot of students at Rice will call it the RMC for short because we love our acronyms here. Let me take you inside and see some of the cool offices that we have here for students. One of my favorite parts about the RMC is that all the spaces that you can eat food and study in. That's why I typically am here. Behind me is the Grand Hall, granted for a reason. It's one of our biggest spaces on campus for group communal activities. There'll be cultural groups that will host their activities here. There'll also be career fairs, club fairs, and academic fairs held here as well. And every once in a while, there'll be a blood drive. I try to always stop by the RMC and see what's happening in the Grand Hall, just in case they have fun stuff to do. There's also a ton of cool study spaces here to work in, and down in our basement in the Multicultural Center. Not only is that a space for cultural groups to meet with one another and organize and plan events, they also have a super cool study space for students. Also in the RMC, there are a ton of spaces to eat food. Connected to your student ID card is something we call Tetra. One Tetra point is $1, and you get $100 worth of Tetra every semester. And you can use that at locations in the RMC or in Brockstein Pavilion, which we'll look at later. In the RMC specifically, we have stuff like 4 Point Taco, the Hoot, which is like a late night fast food extravaganza. We also have Rice Coffee House, East West Tea House, which I spend most of my money at. We have Sammy's and Whoop Deli. You want sandwiches and fast things to get for lunch or dinner. We also have stuff in the basement, down in Willie's. It's a super awesome space to get food or a quick snack. You can even buy snacks from the Rice campus store using your Tetra. It's a super awesome way that Rice lets us support student-run businesses, including the Rice Coffee House and East West Tea. We have a third student-run business called Rice Bikes, which is our on-campus bike repair shop, which is located over on the other side of campus by H&D Housing. Also in the RMC, there are also some really important offices here for students. The most important office is the Office of Academic Advising. If you want to look at what your 4-year plan might look like, is there another major or minor you could consider, or is there certificates that are available at Rice that you're interested in pursuing? The Office of Academic Advising is a place for you to discover all the possibilities for you at Rice academically. There's also the Office of Study Abroad. Students can study abroad as soon as their first summer after their first year at Rice. I had a friend go to Japan, mostly on Rice's dime, and he had a super awesome time learning about Japanese culture, perfecting his skills in speaking Japanese, and taking classes that contributed to his Rice experience. Also in the cloisters of the RMC, we have something called the Student Success Initiatives Offices, or the SSI. And those offices help students navigate what it's like to be at a 4-year university, providing them resources such as advising or tutoring to make sure they have a really successful time here at Rice. Now I'm going to take you back outside and we're going to go see Brockstein Pavilion and Flo Paris. Hi, so this is Brockstein Pavilion right behind me. It's another space where students can eat on campus called Flo Paris. It's kind of a Parisian bakery. If you go there early enough, you can get a free coffee with a croissant. So if I'm ever awake early enough, I definitely stop by there. Highly recommend it. Behind me you can also see some art installations on campus. Campus has a ton of different spaces for art, including the Moody Center for the Arts. We have our own major, Visual and Dramatic Arts, called, or as we call it here, VADA. It allows students to explore their more creative side and get in touch with the arts while they're doing it. Because of that, we have many art installations on campus or in certain buildings from resident artists or even students on campus to express themselves. You can look all the way behind me, that super tall building behind me. Sometimes on campus we'll call it the Rainbow Building because of the lights it has at night. That's part of the Texas Medical Center. So you can see it pretty close from where we are on campus. It is just a street walk away. So now we're gonna head on over to Fondren Library and get to see where students study really hard. This is Fondren Library, the main library on campus. It has 6 floors, so they get progressively quieter as you go up. So quiet, so on the 6th floor that you actually need a student ID to swipe in, and with good reason. Most of those tables double as whiteboard. It's a super awesome space to study, especially during finals period. The library is not only a place to study and get books, but it's also a super awesome technological resource for students. As you can see behind me, there are computers and printers and scanners that are all available for student use. So if you don't bring technology with you to campus, you can use the library at any time. It's a super awesome space for students. Also behind me and above on the 2nd floor is our Writing Center, the Center for Academic and Professional Communication. So there will be undergraduate and grad students there to help you look over any papers you have, or if you need to give any oral presentations, they will record you and help you look over it so you can give a really awesome performance for that really important presentation. Below our feet in the basement is the Digital Media Center, and students can rent out microphones, video cameras, anything they need technological-wise to have a digital media performance or use it for a project or even something fun with friends. Down there, you can even take classes to help you learn how to code. I took a class called Data and Donuts. Though I do remember the donut more, I did learn how to code a little bit of Python, which has allowed me to access so many more opportunities while here at Rice. And that class was offered completely for free for me and everyone that took it. So the library offers a super awesome plethora of resources for students and even staff on campus. It's a super awesome space and where to go, especially if you need to study a little bit of hard. You can also rent out study rooms with your friends. You can just book them online and go get a key so you have a space with your group, your study group. You can have whiteboard, even a TV, or even a large conference room depending on your needs. That's all available in the same building. So we're gonna head back outside into the academic quad and learn about how Rice was founded in the beginning. So here we are back in the academic quad where we started off our virtual tour in. This is Willie's statue right behind me. William Marsh Rice was the big money Texas man that left behind the endowment for Rice University. In this statue are actually his ashes, but don't worry, it's totally fine to sit on it and hang out around it. Willie would actually really appreciate it. William Marsh Rice is super important, not only to the history of the university, but to its traditions as well. To finish off this tour, I'm going to tell you a little story about how Rice University was actually founded in the first place. So William Marsh Rice had actually left behind in his will money for the endowment of what was then called the Rice Institute. He mysteriously died soon after in 1900, and the money for the Rice Institute kind of disappeared with him. And some people were really concerned as to why that happened. So James A. Baker, who one of our residential colleges is actually named after, did some digging and found out that the butler did it. That the butler had murdered Mr. Rice and taken the money with him and forged his will. Soon after, the money was restored back to the university, and the Rice Institute was built here in Houston, Texas in 1912 to open its first door to its first class. Under the supervision of Edgar Lovett, who was the president of the university, who instituted the residential college system after taking a tour of all the different campuses in the Northeast United States and in Europe to figure out what system worked really well for a college. And he found that the residential college system was super awesome for a university, and I agreed with that as well. It's a super unique experience. But because of this, Old Willie is one of the biggest influences on Rice's culture because of the money he left behind for us, but also what he stood for and allowing for Rice to have an institute here, which eventually became a university and a place where all of us can come back and be educated in. As a Rice student, one of the biggest reasons why I love being here is because of the community at Rice. Even when you graduate from Rice, you are welcomed back many times over again, whether it is to be a teacher here or to be an associate to your residential college to help students figure out their career paths, or to be a residential associate at your residential college, or even a magister, being a part of the adult team that helps guide and advise students along the way. The Rice community always allows you back in. You never really leave the Sallyport, or you never really truly graduate, because you're always welcome back into the community. Thank you so much for joining us on our virtual tour of Rice University's campus. We hope you enjoyed it today. If you have any questions, please reach out to the admissions office.